Well, as many of us predicted, California Governor Gavin Newsom, having staved off the California recall election, now feels unleashed to impose more freedom, compromising, job-killing policies down the throats of Californians.
There you go again.
Large stores in California will now be required to create a section for gender-neutral children's toys. Governor Newsom signed a bill into law yesterday. It requires stores with at least 500 employees to maintain gender-neutral sections. The law does not ban the display of boys and girls sections. It only applies to toys and child care products. It does not apply to clothes, and that law goes into effect in 2024.
So, what's the point? Parents who want to buy toys don't know whether or not they can buy them in a boys section or a girls section. So a big box toy store has to have a gender neutral section so that parents know where to buy toys. Are you saying that boy toys and girl toys are the same and should be the same, and the government should make that decision?
But why?
Are you saying that girls like gun and holsters the same as boys like dolls? What are you saying? And whose job is this? And if it's true that parents do want gender-neutral toy sections, won't toy stores do that without government telling them to, just to make profits? So please tell me what the point here is, unless government is saying there really isn't any difference between boys and girls and the preferences of toys of boys and girls, and if there are preferences, we're going to change that. But Gavin Newsom was just getting warmed up.
California is banning new gas leaf blowers. You heard that right. Newsom signed a law banning the sale of new only gas-powered off-road engines like leaf blowers, lawnmowers as soon as 2024.
What could possibly go wrong?
Casey Bliss owns Bliss Power Lawn Equipment. He's working with the Sacramento Municipal Utility District to offer money in exchange for old gas-powered equipment.
We saw that this was coming down the road. We see battery as becoming more and more commonplace.
But not commonplace enough.
I don't know of a battery-powered rototiller. I don't know of a chainsaw larger than a 20-inch bar that's battery-powered. So I'm not quite sure how CAL FIRE and some of those type of things are gonna go out there and mitigate fires when they have to have battery-powered products.
Take the electric Makita lawnmower. Bliss says it takes 2 batteries and can go about 3,000 square feet before a change or recharge.
Well, a commercial landscaper probably, I mean, I could be way off on my numbers, but it's probably cutting, 20,000, 30,000 square feet, maybe even more a day. So obviously they would have to be running around town with 100 batteries.
So family-owned businesses like Chevy Cooper's simply does not see how it'll work.
So only so much work we'll be able to get done in the day before we have to go back home and call it a day early to go charge our equipment.
Well, there is good news. If blowers and mowers cost less than $950, you can just walk in and steal them while they last. Now, did you know that effective January 6th of this year, if you are a publicly held corporation headquartered in California, you must have at least one woman on your board of directors. And by the end of this year, 2021, you must have at least 2 or 3. You didn't know that?
California Governor Jerry Brown signing a bill into law, making it the first state to require public companies to have a female on the board of directors. Hillary Vaughn has the details from Los Angeles. What a great idea, legislating exactly who people have to have on their board. Hillary, what could possibly go wrong?
California Governor Jerry Brown has signed a law that requires publicly traded companies to include women on their boards of directors. Companies headquartered in the state will have to include at least one woman on the board by the end of 2019 and 2 or 3 women by 2021, depending on the size of the board. Governor Brown acknowledged that serious legal concerns could prove fatal to the law's implementation. California's Chamber of Commerce argued against the law, saying the quotas are likely unconstitutional and a violation of California's civil rights statute. I wonder where the ACLU come, which we can never, I don't know, sometimes they get political, sometimes they don't, but I wonder where they would be on this.
No idea, but the legality centers around the fact that the law specifies publicly traded companies that are headquartered in California.
But you could be chartered in Delaware. And
what about just the, I mean, we had...
And then there's the quota system. I think, I
like
the idea that more women are on boards. I think the way this is being implemented is terrible.
Do you hear anything like privacy is guaranteed? Today, I would like to introduce a new privacy and cybersecurity application tool called Secure, spelled S-E-K-U-R. Secure is using proprietary encryption and is offering secure instant messaging and email. All communication is based on servers and data centers hosted in Switzerland without using any of the big tech platforms such as Amazon Web Server or Microsoft or Google, and also following the strictest Swiss data privacy laws. Privacy is a big issue now. Literally, we know that people, if they want, they can read your emails or messages or bank information when you do bank transfer. Constantly, your private information, pictures, chat, email have been stolen and your data have been mined and sold by big tech. When you use a free product, you are the product, and you are handing over your entire life to big tech companies. Secure never uses open source technology, never mines your data, and never asks for your phone number. Also, you can easily communicate with both secure user and non-secure users by using the chat by invites for messaging others and using Secure Send when sending an email to others like your doctor, banker, lawyer, or anyone else. You can also set a time to destruct the message or email to protect your privacy. Secure's technology allows you to communicate privately without fear of spying from your internet provider and without the need of a VPN service to secure your connection. Secure is your solution to stop the constant theft of your digital identity. It costs only $5 for the messenger and only $10 for the email and messenger package. Go to secure.com and take back your privacy today. That's SEKUR.com. Use promo code Larry for 25% off. Now, this professor in this Columbia Business School video has absolutely no problem with this. Notice the happy music underneath.
Well, the knee-jerk reaction is to claim that quotas are bad.
Penalty flag.
Well, the knee-jerk reaction is to claim that quotas are bad.
They aren't. Government-imposed quotas are not bad, says this professor. I guess he's with Columbia.
Because the question becomes, where do we stop? Now we have a quota for females and maybe a quota for some other minority group and so on.
You just outlined the problem, sir. Where do we stop? How about Amish? How about left-handed people? How about short people? How about fat people? How about people with bad skin? What the devil is government doing mandating what kind of person is on a board of a publicly held corporation?
This reminds me of the whole ban smoking debate in the 70s and the 80s. And if I remember right, California probably was a pioneer in banning smoking.
That's exactly what it reminds me of. And I didn't like it then. I don't smoke, never have. Don't like smoking on my hair, don't like it in my food, don't like it around me on my clothes. I don't like it in restaurants. But where did the government get off telling a restaurant owner who may smoke himself, or whose staff may smoke, or most of whose customers may smoke, you can't have smoking in my own privately owned business? What gives you the right? And in the 70s and 80s, when they were talking about all this, I warned you, once you allow that, you can allow anything, including what Joe Biden recently said, and that is that I want privately owned corporations that have more than 100 employees to force them to have vaccines. Let's continue.
And 20, 30 years out, not a lot of us smoke, and we're all better off for that as a society.
We're all better off having the government impose something for our own health? Why shouldn't the government impose we all get at least 6 hours of sleep a day? How about the government tells us we ought to eat our vegetables? How about government telling us we have to work out a half hour a day every day? That'll be good for our health, wouldn't it?
In 11 years, it's going to be 1984, man. Think about that.
Want to see me feed a mouse to my snake?
Yes.
Don't you understand the problem here? This guy clearly doesn't.
So sometimes when we are stuck in a bad equilibrium, it's useful to have some intervention. So for instance, if you look at the rate of the natural replacement of female directors, of male directors, especially in medium and small companies, it'll probably take anywhere between 25 to 50 years.
And sir, how many years should it take? 5, 10, 100? Who decides? And what happens, God forbid, that there aren't enough qualified female members of a board of directors? Do you lower standards? Do you fire men? What are you doing here? Why is this acceptable? I love the happy music though.
For the boards to become somewhat gender balanced. Maybe even get to a 70-30 or maybe a 60-40 in favor of men kind of split.
Can we do that with the NBA? NBA is 85% black. Maybe we ought to get it to 50-50 black and white, 70-30 black and white, 80-20 black and white, something.
And maybe this will jumpstart the process. Maybe, other states will follow suit. And maybe 20-30 years out, we may not even need a rule.
And maybe we won't even need a rule. We don't need one now. If it is true that having more female members of a board of directors is good for profits, don't you think profit-seeking people should do it? And if they don't seek profits, they should be fired by the shareholders because their obligation, their fiduciary obligation, is to maximize profits? Not to have a gender-balanced board of directors because some professor at Columbia thinks it's a good idea.
I'm optimistic.
Well, it's a good thing the professor is optimistic. I'm not, when you have professors like that teaching business students. Now, this brings us to the California imposed mandates for vaccines at schools. The LA Times, of course, says the vaccine mandate doesn't go far enough. Quote, the state shouldn't leave it to California's more than 1,000 individual school districts to pass vaccine mandates. A California-wide rule, says the LA Times, would keep employees and parents from going to another district to escape vaccination requirements. Can't have that. Beyond that, existing state law prohibits the governor from mandating new vaccinations for school children unless there is a personal belief exemption, which the LA Times, of course, doesn't want. But in a recent Times story, the governor's office wouldn't comment on whether he'd support a bill that would remove the personal belief waiver for COVID-19 shots, end of quote. Now, the LA Times calls the governor's new mandate, quote, weak tea, close quote, because among other things, it still allows teachers to exempt themselves unless his or her school district mandates it. Quote, the evidence is incontrovertible. When you look at COVID-19 rates in high vaccination states versus those where fewer have gone in for their shots. Public health campaigns have reached most of the willing and many of the wavering. The rest won't be moved without mandates, end of quote. But according to the LA Times, the left, Joe Biden, those who have not been vaccinated should be forced to be vaccinated, should be mandated to be vaccinated. What about those who've already contracted the coronavirus and possibly have immunities? What about those who simply don't believe that the vaccine had enough time? After all, this was done under Operation Warp Speed, record time, and Donald Trump, according to a lot of people, shouldn't be listened to. Didn't Kamala Harris and Joe Biden say, both of them, if Donald Trump told me to take a vaccine, I'm not going to take it?
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
I trust vaccines. I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump.
And aren't they the same people on the left telling black people that they are victimized by systemic racism? But you also want the same black people who you tell are victimized by, say, systemic racism on the part of the cops to believe the government? And what about healthy young people, especially children? They aren't likely to get sick. They aren't likely to get really sick. They aren't likely to be hospitalized. And they are not likely to die. Do these stats matter? Apparently not. Whatever happened to freedom? Virtually everybody in this country who wants to get vaccinated can be vaccinated. Many people have chosen not to, and they should be fired from their public and private jobs if they don't.
I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated.
What the hell are you talking about?
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide.
I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. See you next time. If you haven't already, go subscribe to our new channel, Larry Elder Daily. That's right, every day we'll have a new video, so you definitely don't want to miss out. Click the link in the description below and subscribe to Larry Elder Daily. We'll see you there.